Good morning. Just going to give people a couple minutes here to get logged in to join us. All right, thank you for joining VirtualPBX-admin training. You should be seeing up here the dash login page, which is just dash.virtualpbx.com. If you're on the VirtualPBX website, you just mouse over support, and you can get to the dash login page that way. Your login information is your email address, your password, which would have been emailed to you, and your account name, which is typically your company name. Then you have the options to click Remember Me, so that way you have to keep typing everything in, as well as forgot your info if you ever forget your password or get login errors. But after that, you simply just click Sign In, and you'll get taken to the dashboard. Now, if you just signed up, you're going to be taken directly to the Dash Wizard, which is mostly showing you information about like your account, which is you could click here on your name to get to. Once you close out of that, then you're here on your dashboard. So on the left, you've got your navigation. So this is basically where you go to set the various features up. In the middle here, we've got your total users. So these are all the people on your account. Dash plans are based on the number of users, so the more you have, the more your bill is going to be. Down below that, we've got your total devices, and then the breakdown of those devices. So in this case, I have a lot of soft phone and web phones, some cell phones, and a few VoIP phones, which is the SIP phones here. And then you notice under here, I've got unregistered devices. This just says, of my VoIP devices, 36 of them are not connected, meaning that the Dash cannot send calls to them, because as far as it's concerned, they're not connected. Over here to the right, we've got your main numbers. So these are the numbers that your customers are calling to get to your phone system. These numbers all behave the same way. So they'll have the same main greeting play. They'll have the same routing. Down below, we've got your fax box number. So this is so you can receive faxes into your account. And then you got your breakdown of your phone numbers. So total numbers, you've got assigned numbers. These are numbers that you're using. They go someplace, right? So they're a main number. They go directly to a specific user. They go to a ring group. They go to an ACD queue, etc. Spare numbers, these are numbers on your account, but you're not using them. They don't ring to anything. Right? Now, you're still going to be billed for them if you're over your account allotment, and that's typical Dash plans have between 1 and 3 phone numbers as part of their plan. So in this case, I have a lot of phone numbers, so I'm being billed a lot for them. But even these spare numbers here, these 3 numbers, even though I'm not using them, I'm still going to be billed for them. And then down below, we've got the breakdown between the U.S. local numbers, USTID, as well as U.S. toll-free. You can have international numbers. Typically speaking, you're going to want to email porting at virtualpbx.com and give us the city and country that you're interested in. And the porting team will let you know if there's any additional requirements. Like Germany, for example, requires proof of presence within the city that you're trying to get a number in. Usually a utility bill is enough, but some countries are more stringent. Others don't care. They won't ask for anything additional. If you're interested in Canadian numbers, those should show up in the by numbers portion when we get to it. All right. Company directory users, notice I have 12 here, even though I have 22 users. That means when I created some of the users, I opted to not include them in the user directory. I can always change that at any time as an admin. And then you can also download this directory. All right, next up, you got your account ID. This is your account number. Now, if you have call into support, for example, we're not going to ask you for this account number. We're going to ask you for your company name. But if you ever need to email into us, you can include that, and we can find your company very easily. The account realm. This is used for a couple different things. One, it's used as part of programming a third-party VoIP device. And then the other major thing it's going to be used for is for outbound faxing. So for outbound faxing, it's an email to fax. So you create an email. In the to field of that email, it's +1 area code and phone number of the fax number you're sending it to, the @ symbol, and then your account realm. And then you just simply need to attach a PDF or TIFF and send off the email. And then the last thing here at the bottom is the store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use in our web store, which is linked up here. So you can use that to buy VoIP phones or network equipment. All right, up here we've got the caller ID. This is for your main numbers. You're going to want to select one of them. Then you've got your company caller ID name or CNAME. This is restricted to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters. Basically, once you click Save Changes here, this information is transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. In roughly 3 business days, their servers will get updated, and then when you make outbound calls, your company name will show up as part of the caller ID. Now realize that this is Thanksgiving week, so if you submit it today, it's probably not going to get processed until Monday, or maybe even Tuesday, depending. All right. Company emergency or E911 address. Just want to put the address where your business is located. This is the default address that the VoIP phones will use if someone picks up a VoIP phone and dials 911. So you always want to make sure that's correct. And then any changes you make, you click on Save Changes. One thing about the company caller ID name is not every carrier supports CNAME. So if a call happens to route through them, the CNAME information doesn't go all the way through. And even for the carriers who do support it, it's a very low priority. So like if they have heavier than expected call volume, they're going to drop that. If they're having some sort of maintenance which might impact their call volume, they also would drop that. So just be aware of that. All right, hold music. So on Dash, hold music is call comes in, a user picks up, and then they press hold on their phone. That's when hold music will play. So on Dash, you can upload your own hold music, your own media files, technically. Dash currently accepts .wav, .wav, and .mp3 files under 1 megabyte in size. And especially for one thing to be aware of is that you want to make sure that these files are recorded in mono, not in stereo. Right? So when you listen to it over the phone, your phone has one speaker. So that's why you need a mono file, because if you try to have a stereo file go through one speaker, you either get silence or more commonly a lot of static, and you can barely hear whatever music or message you have playing. And again, save changes. Oh, in terms of upload, you click upload, find the file on your computer, and then click on this up arrow icon here, and then click on save changes. All right, next up we go to hours, which is actually part of your main number settings. All right, so by default, new accounts are set up under 24-hour open office, but most people choose custom office hours. So for each day of the week that you're open, you put a check mark, and then in the boxes over here to the right, you put in your open hours in 24-hour or military time, and you simply select the time that you're going to be open and closed. Over here at the bottom here, if your facility is closed for lunch, so everyone takes lunch at the same time, you can put a check mark here, and then input your lunch hours if you're so inclined. Next up, we have office holidays. So you can set, if you're closed for holidays, you put a check mark. up here, and then you add a holiday. So you can put your holidays in advance. All right, so you have the option here for single day, date range, and advanced. So single day, pretty simple. President's Day, February 20th. So when February 20th comes around, the system knows, oh, they're in holiday mode. Right. Date range, like we have one here for Christmas Day, December. Oh, someone changed it on me. Oh. Let's just add one then, since we're coming up on Thanksgiving. Well, it looks like the pull downs are not working on my screen here. But basically, date range allows you to choose several days to be closed over and automatically puts you in holiday mode. The main thing to be worried about for date range is you want to be wary of New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, because there's no options to put a year here. So if you put December 31st and January 1st, the system just puts you in holiday mode all year. And then advanced is, again, second Monday of March. We're in holiday mode because it's a company retreat. And again, save changes to keep your changes. And then we get to the main thing here is incoming call handling. So this is how your main numbers are handling calls. You have these three sub-tabs, so your open hours, so when you're open for business, after hours, so when you're closed, and then you have your holiday. Now, all of three have the same options. So this first option here, call comes in, goes to the virtual receptionist. This is a link, and it should bring up a window here shortly. There we go. And here you have, basically you're setting up your virtual receptionist, sometimes referred to as an auto attendant. So on the left, you've got your main menu. This is what your customers press on their phones to navigate through your phone system, right? So 1, I'm having it go to a ring group, the test ring group. 2, I'm going to a school ring group. 3, I'm going to ACDQ, right? You can always set it like, 1 goes to my sales team, 2 goes to my billing team, etc. And that's simply like you click an add route. And of course, my streaming software doesn't allow these pull downs to always work. But then you choose anything from 0 through 9, and then you select, go to the smart directory. You can have it go to a user. You can have it go to a device. You can have it go to an ACD queue if you're making use of queues. You can have it go to a media file. And then also to ring groups, and then as well voicemail boxes. All right, over here to the right, we've got your greetings. So text-to-speech, you simply type it, you click update, you click save, and then save changes over here. Excuse me, pardon me about that. And then the text-to-speech greeting is ready to go. You can upload your own file, again, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, 1 megabyte in size. And basically you choose file, find the file, and click update. If you already have existing recordings, they'll all be listed here in this pull down. And then you would click update. Recorded over the phone. So now this recorded over the phone is specific to my open hours, because that's the menu I'm in. Right, if I want to do my after hours, I have to click on the after hours tab and find that PIN number there. It will be different. But you can only use that PIN during that time frame, right? So during my open hours, I can use this PIN. Now, if I want to do my after hours greeting, I can't do it while my system is in open hours. I have to change it to make sure it's in after hours or wait, and then record it over the phone that way. By default, the system wants you to record that greeting over the phone via a VoIP phone on the account. Right. If you need to use a cell phone or a landline, you actually need to send in a request to our support team so they can enable it. They enable that temporarily, just basically because that's a security feature, because otherwise anyone with a cell phone who potentially knows that PIN number could, or can guess the PIN number, I guess, to then change your greeting on you. Then we have professional recording services. So we've partnered with another company called Snap Recordings. You can, if you click on order, it'll take you right to their website. They have like 100 voice actors to choose from between male and female. They have different versions of English available, different versions of Spanish, different versions of French, so they can also do multilingual greetings. They also have packages available that you can do like a script with a hold music treatment, etc. They handle the delivery of the greeting to you, and then you would just simply upload your own file. They also handle their own billing, and they also have like expedited services available, etc. This last thing is settings, number of retries on misdial. Basically, your inbound caller makes a mistake. How many times are you letting them do that? All right, in this case, I have it set it to 1. Most people set between 2 and 3. Basically, they have a couple chances. And then either your default route would take place or the call is ended. I recommend to not use a default route, so that way if robodialers hit your account on your main number, they get stuck and then the call ends, so you're not getting a bunch of useless voicemails. Right. So any changes you make here on the virtual receptionist, whether main menu or greeting related or both, you click Save here, and then you click Save Changes here, and that way all those changes get saved. All right. This next option here, call comes in, I'm offering it to Bob, and then it goes to virtual receptionist. I can change the user. I can change it to a ring group or a queue. I can even change it to a device. Typically, the most common thing is usually offered to a group or a particular user. But basically what it is you're giving a staff member an opportunity to answer the call first. If they're not able to pick up that call, then it goes to virtual receptionist, so that inbound caller could then select a menu option or an extension and speak to someone that way. All right. Third option here, similar to the middle one in terms of I'm offering it to a user or a group or a device. But if that person or people aren't able to call, then I'm sending them to a voicemail box. Now, the one thing to keep in mind about this option here is that the system has hard-coded to only offer the call to the user or the group for 20 seconds, and there's nothing we can do to adjust that. So if you're routing calls to a cell phone, that 20 seconds may not be enough time, so then you're going to want to use this first option here where someone has to enter a menu option or an extension. Right. If you have users or whoever you're offering it to, if they're making use of white phones, 20 seconds is typically plenty of time. Right, here we got your main fax box number, so you can unassign the number here, meaning you're not using it anymore. So if I do that, for example, oh, getting an error message, weird. All right, but you can always buy a number here or add some spare numbers here if you want to change that number. You also have the option to edit the fax box. I know that on this account, this is a test account, so the fax box doesn't work quite properly, but on your account, if you open it up, you have 2 fields that you can enter. The first one is for telling the system when fax comes into the system to send it to this email address, right? Then that person or people, depending on what you have set up, will get a PDF file of the fax, right? The second box on the edit fax box option there is to add a domain, right? So at abcdogwalking.com, right? That's your company business email domain. You can add that domain into that second box, hit save. Anyone with that email, an email address with that domain, they can then send a fax out through the system. They don't have to be a user on the account to send a fax. So you have an intern, for example, who's helping you out. Yeah, I don't want to add them as a user because that's more expense than I want to deal with, but I do need them to be able to send a fax out. Having that domain, you just give them an email address on your domain and they can do so. All right, numbers. These show the numbers on your account that you're using under numbers in use. Spare numbers, these are the numbers you're not using, but they're still on your account. You have the option here to buy numbers. You got local and toll-free. So local, you simply enter in an area code that you are interested in. You click on search, and you can add a number, and you can add multiple if you want. You click on by numbers. The system verifies that the number is still available, and then it's activated it onto your account, and it shows up here on your spare numbers. Once it's on your spare numbers, you can assign it to a user or to be a main number, etc. All right. Toll-free, similar idea, except that you're just looking at the toll-free prefixes. 833 being the newest one. Don't currently have anything available, but 844 we do. So you can then click buy, same process. You have the option here to port, which will open up the port process, and you start by a new port request, and you follow the on-screen instructions. So basically, porting is moving a number from one carrier to another, so from AT&T to VirtualPBX. Right? What part of that porting process that we need a filled out a letter of agency, or LOA. If it's a local phone number, then we also need a copy of your bill. And this port process includes downloads for the blank LOA, so you can then fill it out and then upload the completed one, and also an upload option for your copy of your phone bill. That submits it to our porting team through the account. Now, if you ever encounter an error in that port process, you can simply just email porting@virtualpbx.com, include the LOA and the copy of the bill, and they can still process the port that way. Once we get the documents, we let you know, hey, we got the documents. Then we submit the port request. At that point, it's up to the current carrier, so let's say AT&T, to decide what goes on next. Basically, they verify the information. If there's no problem with the information, they should then give us a release date, saying, hey, we're going to give the number to you on this day. Now, they don't typically give us that information right away. Sometimes it takes a few days for them to let us know what's going on. If there's a problem with the information on the letter of agency, they will let us know and say, hey, we're rejecting the port request because the address is incorrect, or it's the wrong person signed it, or their company name is wrong, or whatever. They'll give us a reason why, saying they'll say address mismatch. They won't tell us what part of the address mismatch. They'll just say, hey, the address didn't match. We communicate that to you. You'll have to then communicate with your current carrier to get the correct information, or have them update their information to be what you have on the LOA. Whenever happens, you let us know. We update the port request, and then hopefully it goes through. A port for a local phone number can take anywhere from 1 day to 6 weeks. The typical average is roughly about a week to a week and a half. For toll-free numbers, it's right around 3 to 5 business days. All right, let's go over to users. So users, these are all the users on your account. This is also where you would add a user. You put in their first and last name. You put in their email address. Now, each user needs to have their own email address, so keep that in mind. Right, so you can't use support@VirtualPBX for Bob and for Mary. I would have to make support 1 for Bob and support 2 for Mary, or just give them their own email addresses that are unique. Then you create a password for them, and then you give them a main extension. Now, on this particular account, I started the first extension with extension 1000, and so the system just defaults it to saying, hey, this is the next extension that starts with 10. Right? It says, okay, you're now at 1021. That's the next available extension. I can change this to be 2032, or 52112, whatever. So you're not restricted in terms of the extension numbers you're going to use. The system will, by default, create a voicemail box for the user. That voicemail box is intrinsically tied to that user. So if there's any doubt if a particular user is going to need a voicemail box, I say create it. That way you have it, and if it turns out later you need it, great. If over the long term you're like, oh, this person doesn't need a voicemail box, you can always delete it later. But trying to create a new voicemail box and then trying to tie it to a user is not currently possible in the same way. So keeping that in mind. Here's your option to include in the user directory. This send emails to an alternate address. So this is in addition to the email address you have for the user login. But probably the most important thing to do is this one right here, send credentials to the user. So once you say create user or create user and add another, an email is sent to the person. It's like, here's your login information. All right, so once you have a user created, you can click on their name. You can always change their name. You can change their credentials. The voicemail box PIN you can also change. Now, for users that you're going to have a VoIP phone on, you don't have to input a voicemail PIN. When they call in on from their VoIP phone initially, the system will walk them through creating their own voicemail box PIN. If you have users who are only going to be using a cell phone or a landline, then you will need to create a voicemail box PIN for them. Again, here's your option to send to an alternate address, and then here's your option to include in the user directory or to not include, depending on your inclinations. Right now, this person is set up as user. If I was on a normal browser versus the one I'm using for this stream, you would have the option here to change this person to an admin. And then they would have the little blue suit icon. This is the time zone. The language, French, English, or Russian. Ringing timeout. So by default, when we send calls to a user, it's set to 20 seconds. Right? So we can't tell your specific phone to ring 4 times. We only control how much time we try to connect to the device. Now, for a user that's using cell phones, we recommend between 30 seconds and a minute. That's why this person's set to 45. And this is because it simply takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does to a landline, for example, or to a VoIP phone that's connected via Ethernet, right? Because that has a stable location. We know exactly where it is. Whereas when a call gets routed to a cell phone, the cell phone carrier has to find the user first. This is your main extension number. Basically, if this person has a VoIP phone and you have the main extension is selected here, then if their voicemail box has a voicemail message, the VoIP phone will have the little light indicator saying, hey, you have a message. And then caller ID. Okay, users can have multiple extensions if you want, and you can always unassign an existing extension or add new ones. All right, you can always, users can have their own phone numbers. You can add from a spare number, so a number you already have, or you can buy numbers directly here. Then we have devices. Okay, hold on just a minute. All right, so adding a device. The first one here is SIP phone, right? This is a type of, or a particular type of VoIP phone. And if you click on that, you have these manufacturers, and you click on the manufacturer you're interested in, or you have a phone of. You find your model, you select the model, and then at the bottom of this page, you would enter in a name for the device and the MAC address of the phone, which is usually on the back of the phone. It's a sticker. Usually says MAC. Sometimes it's serial number. And then you click Create Device. So as far as the dash system is concerned, the VoIP phone is ready. In actuality, you have to go into the VoIP phone's web UI. You need to change an address, a URL, and then the phone will reboot. It will reach out to that email address that you inputted, which connects to us. We say, oh, you have this MAC address. We know who you are. Here's your configuration file. The phone will reboot again after getting the configuration file. It should then come up, and it's ready to use. Though the particular address you need to change is listed on the website and under the Dash support pages. Cell phone and landline are basically the same. So when we offer a call to, so you enter the device and then the phone number. Actually, let me go to a different user here. So by default, when we offer a call to a cell phone, what will happen is your cell phone rings, you pick up, then you will hear, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. So 1, you need to press 1 fairly quickly to accept the call. But by pressing 1, what you're letting the system know is that, yes, there is an actual person here to take the call. Right? Then it connects the call to you. Now, if, for example, you're having calls go to an automated answering service, so you can select it as a landline or cell phone, but you're basically saying, hey, I'm using this other service to answer calls after hours, for example. What you would want to do is put a check mark here to make allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What that does is that you no longer have to press a 1 to accept the call. Right? Basically, the device rings, we hear the connection tone, we connect the call. We don't wait for an additional tone of pressing 1. Now, if you're actually sending it to a cell phone and you have this enabled, that means if your cell phone voicemail picks up, the inbound caller ends up on your cell phone's voicemail box. Some people love that. Some people don't want that at all. So keep that in mind. All right. Next up, we've got keep original caller ID. So with this checked, what means is when a call gets offered to Duke's cell phone, he sees that inbound caller's phone number. Now, if I uncheck this for him, then what happens is on his phone, he'll see the account phone number that the person called in on. Right? So he will then see, oh, this is a work call, and he can take the call if he wants to, if he can. Right? Versus some random phone number, which you might think is a telemarketer. All right, SOT phone. Little warning message here, but basically make sure you have E911 updated. Right, so by default, when you click on adding a soft phone, the system puts you into adding a third-party soft phone. So like you're using XLite from Counterpath, which is a free soft phone out there. You'd give it a device name. Then you have a SIP username, which you would use to program XLite, for example. And then you would have a SIP password. If you click on the box, it'll reveal the password. You could also use a third-party soft phone to program a VoIP phone that didn't show up on the list under SIP phones. And you would also need this realm information. Now, if you're going to use a VirtualPBX soft phone, which we have available on iOS and Android, also available on for Mac OS and Windows. The Mac OS and Windows does require a license fee, so you need to either order it through the web store or contact our billing team. But the mobile versions don't. Right? You can just add it here and then download the app. But if you're going to use the VirtualPBX soft phone app, right here where it says use third-party application, it's kind of grayed out. If you click on that, it'll switch it to use VirtualPBX application, and then you give it a device name. You click on create device. What then happens is, since I did this directly on the user, this Duke's user, Duke would get an email saying, hey, you got a new soft phone. Here's your login information for the soft phone. And then go ahead and download. All right, web phone, this is also a type A of soft phone, technically. This also needs to be done directly on the user. You give it a device name, you get create device. Now, when I do that, Duke already has a web phone, but basically Duke can then use his same login information that he can log into Dash on the web phone to then make and receive calls on either Chrome or Firefox. Obviously, we need a headset connected to your computer, so you can have a mic and headphones, or at least a mic, so then and use speakers on the computer itself. But then via your web browser, you can make and receive calls. And then landline is basically the same. All right, so then we'll go on to group features here, or sorry, user features. So caller ID number, this only comes into play with a user that has their own phone number. So basically you turn it on and say, okay, use my own phone number for my caller ID, right? So basically this user has their own phone number. When they make an outbound call, I'm choosing to have them use their own phone number for the caller ID versus one of the company numbers. Call forwarding, this is a VoIP phone feature. So it's either off, on, or on failover mode. If you turn it on, it's basically your VoIP phone user is saying, hey, I'm going to be away from my desk, so I'm not going to be able to answer calls that ring to my VoIP phone that's sitting next to me. So instead, I want to forward calls to either a desk phone or a mobile phone. Then you put +1 area code in the phone number and save changes. So basically saying, hey, I'm not going to be here right now. Just send calls to my cell phone so I can still pick up calls. Failover mode basically means, hey, my VoIP phone suddenly lost connection for whatever reasons. It'll start routing calls automatically to my cell phone. Hot desking is another VoIP phone feature. And this is an instance where you're at a different computer desk / VoIP phone from day to day, right? So a shared office environment where you can sit at a different desk from day to day. So on Monday, I sat at desk 7. Today's Tuesday. I'm sitting at desk 23. So I sit down at my phone. I use a feature code, in this case *11 on that VoIP phone. So, and then the system says enter hot desk ID. So it entered 2742. And I do have a PIN enabled, so then it would ask me for my PIN number. I put 2742 again. And then it says hot desking has been enabled. What it means is when someone tries to call my user, call routes to the phone I'm sitting at. At the end of my shift, I pick up the phone, I hit *12, another feature code, to disable hot desking. So that way the next day when I come in, whatever phone I'm at, again, I just sit down, hit *11, enter in my hot desk ID and my PIN, and calls will route to me at the phone I'm sitting at. And most users by default are going to have voicemail box. Users can have their own fax boxes, meaning they can accept their own faxes. I usually recommend like this, set it up as their own phone number, so it goes directly into their fax box. Now you could set it up as an extension, but what that would require then is the person faxing has to dial one of your main numbers, then they hit the extension number that they're going to fax to, and then they hit start fax on their fax machine. For me, that's not natural in terms of when I send faxes from a fax machine. I just enter the number, hit start fax, and I walk away and do something else, come back later, and check it to make sure the fax went through. And that's why I say try to use its own dedicated number. Conference Bridge, users can have you can let them make their own use of their conferencing feature on the system. You will need a Conference Bridge phone number. Enter in a room number. That way each user can have their own conference room number, and then a PIN number, so that way people can log in. Follow Me. This is for users with multiple devices. So what happens when you first enable it, this is what it looks like. Nothing is ringing, right? You choose your devices that you want to ring, and then you adjust the sliders in terms of how long you want them to ring, or you can click Distribute to have them ring in order, and then just save changes. Users can have their own music on hold. You would just click Enable, and then upload the file. Again, .wav, .mp3, 1 megabyte, recorded in mono, and then click on Save Changes. Customized call recording. You can make use of call recording if you enable it on a user. Just remember, you are responsible for making sure that your customers know if they're being recorded or not. Basically, you have to comply with your local laws. And then this is set to the account defaults by default. So you're saying, hey, not recording. You can turn them all on, or you can choose to have only some of them on. So inbound internal means call coming to Duke from someone else on the account, right? Inbound external means Duke is calling someone else on the account, right? Outbound internal means Duke is calling someone else. Hold on a minute. So inbound internal, call coming in to Duke from another user. Inbound external means call coming to Duke from a customer. I was getting that wrong. Outbound internal means Duke's calling another user, and then outbound external means Duke is calling a customer. So ideally what you would actually do is most typically this is usually what I see on a lot of customers. They want the customer interactions recorded, or they record them all if they're making use of call recording. And then you have the option to put do not disturb. All right, let's go to groups. So groups, shorthand for ring groups, basically is for a department or group of people. You can click on add a group. You give it a name and an extension, and then you click and drag people over to create the group. And we'll use this one here. Once a group's created, you can click on the name. You can always change the name of the group, and then you have dialing repeats. This is the number of times a caller can try to ring through to the group. And then you have the little arrow icons over here that you can increase it or decrease it as necessary. And then click on Save Changes. If you click on the Members box, you'll see all the people in the group. And right now, this group, I'm having everyone ring at the same time for the same amount of time. And that maximum 120, that's set up here in the top right. Now I can choose instead to do this and click Distribute. So now I'm ringing people in order. If I don't like it, like let's say I'm like, no, I want Duke to be the first person to get a call. Oops, there we go. Then I can click Redistribute. And again, I can adjust the sliders as much as I want, depending on what my needs are. And in fact, I can say, hey, you're always going to ring the whole time. Now, the groups aren't, these are your only options for routing in groups, whereas ACDQs have different options. The other thing is, call comes in, let's say Duke answers the first call that comes in. So he's talking to a customer. Another call comes in, he's going to hear a call waiting beep until either Hatake here or Jonathan or Kathy pick up that call. Extensions, again, you can always change the extension number, unassign it, or add additional ones. This is mostly so your staff members can transfer calls to a particular ring group. Ring groups can have their own phone numbers. So call comes directly into the ring group versus going through the menu. And then group features. Call recording on a group, it's either on or it's off. Right? It's basically just recording the incoming calls to the group. Ringback, this is technically hold music for the group. So for that 120-second ring duration that we have for the group, I can upload a media file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, 1 megabyte in size, to play while my customer is waiting for one of my staff members to pick up. You want to make sure that in this case, this file is at least 120 seconds long, right? Because that's the duration I have in the ring group. If I change that ring duration in the group, then I want to make sure my file matches it or exceeds it. So like if I change the ring duration down to 60 seconds, I wouldn't need to change my ringback file. But if I increased the ring duration in my ring group to say 240 seconds, I would need to update my media file here for the ringback to match, because the system will not automatically loop the ringback file. Next action. If no one picks up, what do you want the system to do with the call? Typically, it's send it to a voicemail box or send it back to your virtual receptionist. allow call forward. So if your users are making use of VoIP phones, you can allow them to make use of call forwarding because they know they're not going to be at their desk phones. They can still pick up calls on their cell phone. Then caller ID prepend. This is, again, a VoIP phone feature. You can add additional text or numerals in front of the caller ID. So whatever shows up on the phone, there'll be additional text, so that way your staff members know, oh, it's about this particular kind of call. All right, devices shows all the devices on the account. Red means we don't know that it's connected. Green says, hey, we can send calls to it. Black means it's disabled. Right? That's why this one's off. You can add devices here as you could on a user. The only two that I would recommend that you don't do is adding a VirtualPBX soft phone here, nor adding a web phone, because those need to be tied directly to a specific user. But anything else you can go ahead and add here. And typically what we see is like if someone's setting up a new office location and they have the hardware but they don't know who's sitting where, or that maybe not everyone's been hired yet. They're like, well, hey, IT guy, just add all the phones, get them ready. Once we get the people in and all the furniture, we'll figure out who goes where and what device gets sent to where. Voicemail boxes shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. Right? Users, well, there's a user field here, so you know, okay, this field voicemail box is tied to this user intrinsically, whereas these up here are not. You can manually create a voicemail box. You would do this, for example, for your ring groups or for your EACD keys if you're making use of them. Once you've created them, you click on the little icon here. Under Advanced, for any manually created voicemail box, you're going to want to make sure you upload a greeting to it. And you're also going to want to add recipients. So voicemail boxes can only hold up to 100 messages. After that, when someone tries to leave a message, they said the mailbox is full, and to try again later. So you want to make sure you have a recipient on your voicemail boxes. And then under Options, once you have a voicemail greeting, you can go ahead and click on Already Set Up. But then you can also do delete after notification, basically saying when the email gets sent out saying, hey, you have a voicemail, well, on that email there's an attachment with the WAV file or MP3 file, so they can listen to the greeting themselves. And you check this saying, hey, once you send out that email to whoever's getting the email, go ahead and delete the email, the voicemail itself, so I don't have to worry about hitting that 100 message limit. Greetings, this is your greetings manager, so you can see all your greetings on the account. You can download them to listen to them yourself. And then you have the option to change the name or delete the greeting, i.e., hey, I don't need this greeting anymore, get rid of it. Or I want to change it because the name of it just wasn't very clear and I don't know what is what. Call logs shows all the calls to and from the system. Right, so these orange arrows means call going out of the system, green arrow going to the right, call coming into the system. You can click on a call here and get some additional information. Usually you see like which users it is being offered to and which device, that sort of thing. Our engineers are working on advanced reporting, so you get like call durations, logins, who was offered calls, who wasn't, that sort of thing. I don't have an ETA on that as of right now. Feature codes, so these are VoIP phone keyboard shortcuts, for lack of a better term. Basically, you can make use of these to access different features. These are also published on our public website, so you don't have to log in to get them every time. Also, if you use a web phone, you can get to the feature codes quickly through the web phone itself. All right, up here at the top right corner, you got the 3 horizontal line icon, and we're currently on the dashboard. Down below that, we got call queues. So this shows your ACD queues, or call queues. Now, each queue is $30 per month. So on this count, I got 5 queues, so that's an extra $150 a month I'm paying. You can always add another queue here, and if we go here on the little gear icon, so when you create a queue, you give it a name, you give it an extension, or you assign it a phone number. Then you've got routing options, and unfortunately the streaming browser I'm using is not cooperating with this drop-down. So there's 4 queue routing options. Most IO, the one that's showing up right here, is basically saying, hey, whoever's been waiting for the call the longest gets the next call that comes in. There's round robin, essentially random and evens out over time. There is least offered. Basically, whoever's been offered the least amount of calls gets the next call in. So Bob's been offered 20 calls. Mary's been offered 5. Next call that comes in goes to Mary. Related to that is least calls. So Mary has spoken to all 5 of her people that she's offered a call. Bob's only spoken to 2 out of the 20. Next call that comes in goes to Bob until he has the most number of connected calls. You've got hold treatment, so you got the default hold music. You can upload a file, again, 1 megabyte, recorded in mono, .wav, .mp3. Queue timeout, basically how long can someone wait on hold to speak to an agent. Queue call limit, 0 means unlimited, but you can like I can put 4 here, so only 4 people can wait on hold. Timeout immediately if empty. So if I have no agents logged in, just immediately time out. Don't make my customers wait on hold for no one to pick up. And then I can either send it to an escalation queue, so you would have to have additional queues to send it to, or if I select none, then I'm like, okay, send it to a voicemail box, so at least the inbound caller can leave a message. Over here on the right, we have queue behavior, agent recovery time. So after an agent has spoken to someone and their call ends, how much time do they have before the system offers them another call? In this case, that's 300 seconds, which is a long time. Normally, it's set to 30 seconds. See if it'll let me. Nope. All right. Now, force away if rejected or missed. So if an agent misses a call, you can have the system automatically put them in away mode, which means the user has to put themselves ready again to accept call. And then agent connect timeout, basically how much time are we trying to reach an agent before it moves on to the next agent. All right, next up we've got blacklists. So blacklist basically allows you to create a list of phone numbers or caller IDs that you do not want to have connect to your system. Right, so you have someone who's harassing you, or this one robo-dialer phone number keeps coming up. So you get the phone number from, say, your call logs. You come into blacklists. You click Edit Blacklists. If you don't have one, you click Add. If you've already created one, you click the one you want to work on, and then you put +1 area code and phone number, and then Add, and then when you're done adding phone numbers, you hit Save. You go back to Settings, and then you just make sure that the blacklist you want to be active is under Selected, and then you click Update. So then whenever those phone numbers come into ring to this account, they just get a busy tone. So as an admin, you can get to any fax box on the account. You can see their inbound, you can see their outbound faxes. You can also see the email and fax logs to see what happened with a fax that didn't send out successfully. The same applies to voicemails. The recording manager is actually hosted by AWS. Everyone can get to the user portal. It's their own specific user portal, right? So that way they can see their voicemails. Now, if you have delete after notification set up on your voicemail box, this will always be empty, because once you get a voicemail, it gets sent to email, and then the system deletes it here. But they can see their own call history. They can see any faxes if they have a fax box. The contact list is going to show all the contacts within the account, right? So the users, the ring groups, extensions, voicemail boxes, etc. Conference, this is how they manage their conferencing. They can invite people, other users on the account. They can lock a conference so other people cannot join it. They can mute everybody. They can unmute, and then they can end the conference. If a conference is actually active, you also have options on the participants. So you can mute a specific participant, or you can actually kick a particular participant, for example. And then settings and devices, users can set up their own call forwarding here, and they can see their devices. You can also set up call forwarding via the feature codes. Just so you know, that's come up a couple times. And then you get the voicemails. You also have webhooks. If you're going to make use of APIs, basically use webhooks, allows use of APIs to hook Dash into other software. There is a fee for that. You're going to probably want to talk to our account services or billing teams to get the pricing on that. You get the link here to the store, to the web phone, since this particular user has a web phone active. And then right here, little arrow going to the right, that's the logout. And that is Dash. If you have any questions, feel free to make use of chat, and I'll answer them. I'll hang out here for a minute or so, see if anyone has any questions. But if you don't, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All right, I'm not seeing any questions pop up, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.